Holly, I want to talk about training because we both have a real passion for giving high quality training, and I'd like to talk about our approach to it and what we value in and what we think are good quality trainers and speakers too.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I saw a quote recently, and the quote was that a bachelor's degree nowadays is only legitimate for 5 years. It only lasts for 5 years. And beyond that, the person needs retooling and retraining. So since companies are now realizing that, we need to keep our workforces at the top of their game. We need to have that continuing professional education. You and I both know training is huge, and it's a good thing we both have a passion for it.
Yeah.
But finding a quality trainer, somebody like you,
Thank you.
is hard.
And you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a difficult proposition. It really is. Fortunately, that's one of the things that I looked at with my dissertation. And what I found with my dissertation, I was looking to find out what qualities or characteristics is inherent in us that make some people want to come back and take repeat training with us again and again. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, there are 6 different sets of expectations or 6 different sets of characteristics that people look for. Mm-hmm. You're in one of those groups. In fact, you're in several of those groups.
Good.
But the first group that I discovered was I called them the Entertain and Involve Me group. You're really good at entertaining. You and I both like to diffuse training with humor.
Right.
Adults don't like to just sit and be hardcore serious, most adults, for the entire time. So a lot of people come expecting to have a little bit of humor thrown in, a little bit of brevity, some good stories to make everything kind of come home. And then they definitely want to be involved. You know that. Adults want to be involved.
Yeah. Engaged with it. And I also want to talk on humor. It has to be what I call laugh with jokes, not laugh at.
Yes.
So it's usually going to be mild self-deprecating or you're great with I call them nerd jokes for Excel.
Yes.
You know, it's a joke where once you've learned enough, it's an insider joke on it.
Correct.
So those type of things, and I like those too. The sleight of mouth is a word.
Sleight of mouth.
Where it's to go, did they say that? And so forth. And I enjoy those greatly, and it gets people to stay engaged and pay attention. So that's excellent. So it's fun.
People, adults also like to give their opinions or give self-starring examples when you're learning new concepts, especially in our professional development classes. People like to say, oh, I remember a time when. Yeah. They want to be included. So that's kind of the first group that my study uncovered. And then the second group that my study uncovered are people who are very, very serious about training. They don't mind a little bit of entertainment, but they don't want it necessarily. Mm-hmm. They just know that when they get back to work, darn it, they have to do what the supervisor needs them to do. Mm-hmm. So they're there to learn, feed me, make sure I have it. Definitely let me practice it. Let me do some kinesthetic work with it. But I got to get back to work and use this. Yeah. And that was the second group. The third group is a hybrid of the first two. Really super serious about training, but also want some fun. Mm-hmm. So that's 3 groups, and I'm not going to tell you the other 3.
Oh, no, of course. That's a secret. They have to hire you to get that one. Yeah. Right. So those are several I value. And to me, another thing is, in past, is the difference between a trainer that's there to just deliver content and versus the trainer that's paying attention, is the content being absorbed. Yeah. And I couldn't train where I'm just delivering content. Right. I can do it, but it's not natural for me to do something where I'm just speaking and there's no engagement with the audience. And I value trainers that are paying attention to it. And I've had a number of people in classes say, how did you know I had that question? And it's because it's a combination of logic and intuition and listening to what they say. And also, just like you get to know who's in the audience. Who are we speaking to? What's going on? Right. I can't imagine not giving a talk where it's not somewhat tailored to the audience I'm speaking to. So that's, to me, a value of a trainer, is that they're doing their best to customize to the environment they're speaking to. Right. And I always, with my presentations now, I try to adhere to the new presentation of PowerPoint, which is Pachacacha style. Right. And which means I'm delivering the message, but the visuals are a backup. So there are more images and less words on the screen. And then I also like to deliver with all of my trainings a workbook. And that allows that involvement and interactivity. And we know through studies that there's something about
taking a pen and actually writing versus typing that helps people with their retention and with their assimilation of new information. So my people always have a good old-fashioned workbook that they can work along with, and hopefully they can take that back to the office, and when they see it on their desk in a couple days, go, oh wait, there was this really cool thing I wanted to remember. Where is that? So hopefully that helps people with retention and then being able to take that new knowledge and really kick it into play when they get back into the office.
The other value of in-person training is that they get to relate to people, do a little networking, get to connect. There's more data for them too, versus just self-paced online training where it's just streamed and you're getting it. That has its place too, but there's so much that you get from hearing what your other associates do and others. And another aspect to me that I think both of us value is engaging them but not humiliating them. Years in the corporate world, it should have been just called the public shaming training because it was almost like they brought in someone to try to make people feel embarrassed in the group. And I don't know where that came from. That's not a good trainer.
No, I agree that you have to, as a trainer, when you and I both do this, you have to walk into that classroom every single time already respecting the people in there. And the minute you do that, they extend it back. So there is no shaming. I always tell my adults, if you have a question to ask, it's not that you're stupid. You've not encountered it yet. Your brain is full. You know a lot of things. You just don't know that one thing. So there's no shame in asking questions. There's no shame in making misstatements. I do that all the time. And we're all learning and continually relearning. A lot of the things that we've grown up knowing, we find out later weren't the fact. And we have to be willing to say, oh, that was an old wives' tale. I'm not doing that anymore. Let me do something different.
A few more things that you and I value just in trainers for people is just professionalism and interaction. If how do you handle a problem? To me, the person who brings us in is, if there's a problem that occurs, we should be on the team helping it, not adding to it, not whining and complaining. And it's amazing how many we both see where someone will say to me, well, you're so easy to work with. I'm going, who have you brought in before? I mean, not that I don't think I'm easy to work with, but it's like, what has happened?
Why is everybody
I didn't do anything special, and you're saying I'm easy to work with. And I think that's important, as well as good trainers are committed to the room. I kind of feel like sort of a parent, and I'm responsible for everyone in the room. That room's I know it sounds funny, but sacred space to protect. So if something happens, something comes in, I'm responsible for everything that goes in. And I don't know everyone else is that way.
No, and you're absolutely correct. I always tried to tell, I've been responsible for groups of trainers in the past, and I've always tried to tell my trainers, your students, your participants will look to you for guidance. If you are angry, they will become angry. If you are upset about something, they will become upset. If you're happy, they become happy. So you need to set the tone for your room. You do need to guard it like a parent. You need to make sure that the room is progressing and moving into areas that you deem appropriate for your class.
One time I was teaching and a officer came in the back of the room, and I thought, what did I do? I'm a guest here.
Finally caught up with
you. And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, there's a tornado warning and watch, whichever's the worst of them. And I said, well, excuse me a moment, what should we do if something happens? Because I just drove in. He says, well, go out the door and turn left. So I turned to the class and I said, class notes, I'm engaged. If any of you hear a freight train, disrupt the instructor. And we all laughed and took a moment. But you have to own problems that occur. You can't just disregard them. And then we laughed, but I also wanted them attentive because that's a safety issue. And understanding that. So that's a piece of this that's so important.
I had a similar occurrence. It wasn't quite a safety issue, but I was speaking at a very prestigious hotel in North Carolina, and to a group of about 600 people. And a UPS man came in the back of the room and walked all the way to the front with his package and finally stopped right in front of me. And I looked down and said, can I help you? And he said, I don't know where to take the package. And I said, no problem. Go out these doors right here. There'll be somebody there to help you. And we all laughed.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
After he left, but we could have been upset. I could have been indignant. I could have been insulted. It wouldn't have done anybody any good. And I'm sure, you know, probably not many people even remember that happened.
Yeah.
Because I just let it go. So you have to be that person in the classroom. You really do.
And then I want to talk a little bit about keynotes too, which we both do. But that's equally important. Get to know the audience. If I'm doing a large keynote, I want to go down the night before. Is there a social? Get to know them. What's the story? I do research before. Very important that we're speaking to someone.
I agree.
You know, and that's to me.
It helps us to be appropriate with our examples. It helps us be appropriate with our speech, with the acronyms we do or do not use. So you do really need to know your audience. You need to know their demographics. And I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Somebody who really wants to be a part of the room and really be a sharer of information will look to find out that information before they go on.
So let's tell people how they can learn more about us.
Yeah. So I'm Dr. Holly Speaks, and my website is drhollyspeaks.com. You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Dr. Holly Speaks. And my Gmail is drhollyspeaks@gmail.com.
Excellent. And I'm Martin Brossman, and you can just Google my name. My business card says that I have about 40,000 pages of content out there, but for my speaking, you can find it on martinbrossmanspeaks.com as well. And really look forward to hearing from you, and add your comments too of what you value in speakers and in trainers.